Conrad Bay here, to what I hope will be a relatively quick video on why bother beekeeping, which will serve as an introduction to the Bee World project, with which I have volunteered in Uganda for about 6 weeks each in the past couple of years. In a nutshell, Bee World Project's mission is to empower people to change their lives through the practice of beekeeping and the development of products associated with the hive. The Bee World Project is a Canadian organization that was founded by beekeepers and philanthropists John and Shlomo, who then brought on board Angela and Catherine to help provide administrative support, and a variety of other folks such as myself, John, Steph, Verna, and Doug to provide technical expertise related to beekeeping and other aspects of the project. Specifically, my contribution has been to facilitate technical training courses in 2 communities in the Soronko and Nakosangala districts of Uganda. Bee World Project has initiated work in Cambodia, the Dominican Republic, Ethiopia, Haiti, Peru, Uganda, and Zambia. In each country, BWP liaises with non-governmental organizations such as service groups and community development organizations to consider the desires and needs of the village and the region. In the case of Uganda, BWP is partnering with Love is the Answer, which provides education and life skills support focused on those impacted by the AIDS epidemic, which, unfortunately, has touched a very wide proportion of the population in the country. In addition, while conducting the most recent set of courses, Bee World Project beta tested a semi-prefab swarm catcher box developed by the Asali Cooperative of 5 students from the Yale School of Management and Art Center College of Design. Our contact with Mariana Soma of the cooperative stimulated the idea to use an age class division of labor similar to that employed by the honeybees themselves. Young people in the client communities were enlisted to build swarm boxes to trap migrating colonies of bees. It is hoped that with the seminar training they received, they will be able to generate income by providing bees to older beekeepers and perhaps become beekeepers themselves eventually. In Nakosangala, we also attempted to foster connections between the groups we were working with from Wampiti and Wantabia with the nearby beekeeping training and marketing center. That center grew out of efforts funded some decades ago by Canadian and German development grants, and is currently operated by Maria Owat as the Nakosangala Apiculture Center. There, too, we were joined by U.S. Peace Corps development worker Jessica Wajda and her counterpart Dominique Odipo from an adjoining district in an effort to train trainers to further disseminate impacts from our project. I believe strongly in experiential learning for adults, encapsulated in such sayings as, "Tell me a thing I'll forget, show me I'll remember a bit, engage me in head and in hand, then truly I will understand." It is also a given that all of us are smarter than any one of us. So, in our training sessions, as much as possible, I tried to tap into the experience of the community and arrange the sessions to be as hands-on and self-directed as possible. To begin to answer why bother with beekeeping, well, for one thing, beekeeping just fires my own fascination pathways. The biology of bees and the dynamics of insect societies can serve as a model for making some sense of the muddle of baffling human behaviors and interactions, which I find so difficult to understand. Over the years, my day job duties with BC's Ministry of Environment have become increasingly administrative and bureaucratic, largely unrelated to my principal interest of study, entomology. I find that volunteering with the Bee World Project stimulates my core interests and keeps my field skills honed. I enjoy making the transition from being a desk jockey playing paper hockey to being a field hand in a strange land. This allows me the opportunity to share innovations I have picked up in one locale in another where such practices may be unknown. In addition, by working in communities rather than just visiting, I am afforded a much more intimate integration into the cultures of the countries in which I have worked than would have been possible through simple tourism. Finally, there are many complications related to providing financial aid in the developing world, but I find little to argue against providing education. Give a man a fire and he will be warm until the wood runs out. Set a man on fire and he will be warm for the rest of his life. Setting alight the desire and ability to learn can become such an unquenchable flame. Those are, of course, largely personal reasons for why developmental apiculture is of interest to me, but there are more objective justifications for encouraging cooperative beekeeping ventures in places such as Uganda. Beekeeping is an income-generating activity that is compatible with conservation goals that are important in many areas of Africa, including the client area in the Soronko district, which borders Mount Elgon National Park. Beekeeping doesn't conflict with other land uses, such as that reserved for parkland, woodlots, or agriculture. Beekeeping can even allow some productive use to be made of otherwise marginal lands, which are seasonally flooded or, conversely, are too dry for other purposes. And, of course, fostering a healthy population of honeybees can increase pollination and thus productivity of the many bee-pollinated crops that are exploited in agriculture. Tending bees is a traditional activity that does not require a great degree of capital. A wide variety of designs are used in Uganda to provide shelter for bees. The honeybees of Africa are the same species as that with which most North Americans are familiar, Apis mellifera, which, some might be surprised to find, is not native to North America at all, but like all of us non-First Nation folks, were imported from the Old World. Native African varieties of honeybees tend to be very defensive and less amenable to intensive management techniques than our European varieties. This is especially true for the Apis mellifera scutellata indigenous to Uganda. The judicious application of smoke to both the skin and the hives is a key management technique, but oddly is not one that is universally employed by apiculturalists in Africa. So this core practice alone can make beekeeping more comfortable and beekeepers less fearful of their charges.
Nicely done.
The introduction of movable comb hives, such as the Kenya top-bar hive, opens the door to numerous efficiencies employing technical and scientific information that can greatly improve the harvest of honey and beeswax. Hive switching is another trick that can make hive management much more palatable. After smoking oneself and the hive, the occupied hive is moved at least 10 meters from its original location to a shaded spot and an empty hive left in its place for the duration of manipulations. Bees will leave the occupied hive to defend the original location and enter the empty box until the original hive is replaced after management activities are concluded. I have learned from experienced beekeepers amongst the African elders that it is crucially important to use a tarp or towel to keep the occupied brood nest as dark as possible to minimize the risk of colonies absconding after heavy manipulations. Scientific research has confirmed that exposing the brood nest to light is a key stimulus leading to colonies abandoning the nest site. I recently put together a fairly lengthy video on techniques appropriate for working with the idiosyncrasies of African varieties of honeybees, which you should be able to find by searching for Managing African Bees. So that's about as much detail on the subject as I think is warranted here. So, to continue on the topic of the benefits of beekeeping, beekeeping provides honey and wax, which can be sold as is or can serve as the raw materials for many value-added products. Honey can be used in bakery and confection making, as well as in the more traditional brewing of honey beer, which is popular in many parts of Africa. Wax can be used for making candles or cosmetics, or in batik dyeing, and lost wax metal casting. Most of these shots are actually from Ghana in West Africa, as these items are not widely produced in Uganda, and thus, because of the opportunities they provided, figured prominently in the technical training sessions I facilitated. Well, I think that serves as an adequate introduction, and you can, of course, find out more about Love is the Answer at loveistheanswer.ca. That's all one word, loveistheanswer.ca, or about Bee World Project at beeworldproject, again all one word, .org. That's beeworldproject.org. Or, of course, you can simply Google either of the organization's names. Thank you so much for watching, and be well.